with who you were.
Yeah, that you identify with who you are. If you show yourself as an apparition, it's who you were. So people can identify you and things
I
like
see.
that.
That's for the humans, right?
Yes. Now, there's no relationship of marriage on the other side. You have soul circles and relationships, but you're not bound to each other like a marriage.
There's no sexual.
No,
No.
none of that.
That's a
So
human
so
thing.
so
That's
here,
human thing.
here's a yeah. So that's why I wonder with transgenders or gay people, maybe they jumped into the wrong box.
No, well,
Okay,
that's a
has
different
to do with
story.
the whole reincarnation thing.
It's not
which
reincarnation.
They don't call reincarnation, they call it life experiences. And some people sign up for a certain life experience. And so they're here to experience that. And sometimes they come back too fast and they remember being the other gender, and it kind of confuses them.
They've lived before.
yes,
Because
but as a
if-
different
if-
sex. And
Imagine
That's the explanation
Marilyn
for that.
Yes,
Monroe
yes, they
was
came back
like
too soon.
the ultimate woman's woman, and she loved being a woman, and if she came back right away as a man, it's like, wait a minute,
That was a
I'm
mistake.
supposed to
Well,
be a woman.
yeah, because your subconscious all of a sudden starts
Yeah,
shooting
get
out
confused.
thoughts of the past, not on purpose, but it does, and it confuses you.
So have you heard of Dr. Ian Dunbar? No, not Ian Dunbar. I'm sorry, Dr. Oh my God, what was his name? Ian Stevenson. That's what it was. So he did a study of children of the ages of 6 and under, over 2,500 children that he could prove they lived before. So
Yeah.
there was an example of a child kept saying to his mom and dad, like, oh, that's what it was. He was sitting on his mom's lap, pointed at a picture in the newspaper and said, oh, that's ba 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 ba. And his mom was like, wow, and that's a Japanese name, and you're only 3. How would you know that?
Well, again, there's a couple things that are indicators. A child who learns how to play a piano at an early age and is a
Sits
master
down at the
musician.
piano for a first
Yeah.
time and just plays a masterpiece, has played it before.
That's somebody who's
Yeah.
experienced that before. Now, you got to realize that a lot of these people that come back for new experiences,
Why wouldn't you call that reincarnation?
it's reincarnation is a belief that you come back as a higher
Yeah,
being.
You climb a ladder.
You climb a ladder from
And
a
each
lower
time you
life
come back,
force
you're
to a
higher,
higher one to a higher one. That's not, they said there's no such thing as that.
Okay.
You come back for different experiences as a person, as
You're experiencing
In
hunger.
other words, you don't come back as a cow.
Yes.
illness.
Right.
that's
right.
that's
Yeah.
reincarnation is the Indian culture where you come back as a higher being if you're good enough. And if
Okay.
you're bad, you go back down the ladder.
Oh.
That's reincarnation in
I
the true
see.
sense. There is no
I
such
do.
thing.
I do respect all animals, so I could be a Hindu, but it's
No,
all right.
but that does not happen.
Okay.
Sorry. You don't go from an animal to a person.
That's kind of nice to know. But somebody told me they did a past life regression and they remember being a tree.
Yeah.
As far as we know.
They have said that doesn't happen, from what they've told us. You
Okay.
you could come back and you could come back as a different experience. Now, one of the things
But
that
not everybody's honest either. So.
yeah. Now, one of the things that people seen a lot of experiences is SIDS, sudden infant death. Well, that's not supposed to be a traumatic thing it is for the parents, obviously losing a child, but that individual's soul came back, or spirit came back to experience birth again, nothing else but birth again. And so once they've experienced it, they're done with their experience.
There was a case of a little boy that had
And
died.
so they're done. They don't need to live a full life. And that's
Why would they want that experience?
because maybe they didn't have, maybe they had C-section versus a birth experience. I don't know. I don't know what the reasoning is, but that's the explanation of a lot of sudden infant deaths. It's just, it's not for us to be sad about it. It was meant to be
Don't
that
worry,
way.
she'll come again. And so later on, she found out she was pregnant. She had a little girl.
Can-
and, you know,
can
so they
you
assumed
actually
that this was
see
soul
the
of one
spirit?
that she had miscarried.
If the light reflects off them,
And that
yes.
he was- she
As they
was
move
coming
around.
because
Yeah.
the little boy saw
Do you
her
see
soul.
anything here now?
I
It
don't
was
see,
taking care of her soul.
my sensitivity is very bland. If I feel pressure in my face or if I get sudden chill and my hairs stand up on my arms, that tells me a spirit is over my shoulder. Listening to the stories I'm telling, they like the stories.
So can I tell you something? I was with my father the entire time he was dying, and he's a kind of a science guy too, so we talked about this years before. You know, we've always had these conversations. He's just as interested in all this as me. So he let me record his death. And, oh God, I forgot where I was going with this. I can't remember what I was going to say about it.
The way I have those things all the time.
Senior moment.
Yeah.
Wow.
I have a lot of them.
Oh, I've been old girl. Whew. But, I can't remember it. But I remember seeing, okay, after he died, I just stayed with his body for about 20 minutes. Never been with a dead body. I was obsessed to see what a dead body was like. But meanwhile, while he's just kind of laying there, he's dead. I'm over here, like, talking in the room to maybe, oh, now I remember. So on my way out, right after that, I get in my car, and as I'm driving home, my head all of a sudden had a sensation of being heavier than 2 or 3 bowling balls, and I felt this like tingling, prickly, all over sensation, it just on the head, and major pressure. Was that my father, do you?
Probably. There's a good chance. He's probably saying, I'm okay. It worked. Everything's done.
Okay.
Typically, when a loved one passes, a message will get to the loved ones who are left behind immediately or soon after, like funerals and stuff, to let them know everything's okay. They will try to communicate right away, saying, celebrate my life and don't cry for me.
My oldest son, when my husband died, we had a funeral on Monday down in Arkansas. And John lives in Minneapolis, so he and his wife and his one child at that time came flying down, and my other son came, and some cousins, you know, and we're all down in Arkansas. And we have to come back to Iowa because half the relatives are up here. So we're having a dual memorial service, one down there for his relatives that live down there, one for here for the relatives up here. And so everybody else had left that morning, Tuesday morning, and John and Sonia they had stayed at my house, and they were getting ready to leave. And Sonia, he was all packed up, but Sonia was still finishing putting makeup on and stuff, getting ready to go home. And John took Taylor, who was 2.5 at the time, and was walking around our property. And we had just bought a brand new truck in December. He died at the end of January. And we had the truck parked in the barn, machine shed, whatever you want to call it. And so, anyway, John went out there, opened the door, and took Taylor in and sat him on the riding lawnmower. And as he's standing there, he said, Mom, he said, have you ever got that feeling that somebody's looking at you? And I go, yeah. He said, well, I did too. He said, it was so bad. He said, I turned around and looked at the truck, and his dad was sitting in the front seat of the truck. Big grin on his face, you know, like, I'm happy, you know, I'm sitting in my truck.
Children see him.
And, this 30-year-old guy saw him, you know, and he looked at him, he said, Dad? And he looked again, and when he looked the second time, he, you know, like,
See, I was wondering, so you were talking about dreams. Like, when my grandma passed away, we were, like, really close. She lived in Centerville, and we live in Cedar Falls, but I used to come down, like, for 2 weeks, and I didn't really enjoy it. I don't know if you've ever been to Centerville. It's not the greatest, you know. But I loved going to see her and stuff, and we did a lot of stuff. We were really close, and she died of Parkinson's. She was really sick for about 10 years. You know, Parkinson's is awful. And I had been wanting her to move to Cedar Falls in a nursing home so we could all be with her more, because it's over a 3-hour drive. You know, it's just, you don't just pick up, and especially like in the fall, because you don't want to drive at night because of the deer and stuff. And my grandpa was kind of a putz, and I always knew he kind of was, but he didn't want her to move and blah, blah, blah. And after she died, I really struggled, especially he moved to Cedar Falls for a while and was living in kind of an assisted living apartment. And he's got dementia, so he told me a lot of things probably that he would not have told me before, and I really realized. And I'm like a huge feminist, so even more so, I'm like, I wish I would have fought harder. I wish I would have done this. And I always wished, I thought I'd be so relieved